Today's objective is today we'll measure lengths of several objects to the nearest whole unit using inches and centimeters. Now it's your turn to repeat the objective back to me. Ready, set, go. Today we'll measure lengths of several objects to the nearest whole unit using inches and centimeters. Nice job. Now let's go over our important vocabulary for today's lesson. You'll recognize most of these words from yesterday's lesson. Our first word is inch. Everybody say inch. Nice job. Now remember, inch can be abbreviated to IN period, and we use abbreviations because they're a faster, more efficient way of writing things. Now, the inch is the smallest customary unit of length, and it's about the length of the tip of your thumb to your first knuckle. Now, we measure in inches using a ruler. Our next word is centimeter. Tap your head if you remember the word centimeter. Nice job. Now, centimeter can be abbreviated to CM period. And a centimeter is a small metric unit of length. It's about the width of your pinky finger, so from one side to the other side. We measure centimeters using a ruler. Now, yesterday we talked about rounding. Tap your head if you remember the word rounding. Great. Now, remember, rounding just means choosing the nearest whole unit. And that leads us to our last vocabulary word, which is whole unit. So a whole unit is just a number that isn't a fraction. So numbers like 0, 1, 2, 500, 1,000, as opposed to numbers like 1/4, 1/2, 3/4, and so on. Now don't forget this really important measuring rule. You must align the edge of your ruler with the object that you're measuring. This will help you get the most accurate measurement that you possibly can. If your ruler is aligned with the object right at the edge or right at 0, wherever the 0 is located, then you'll be able to get the best, most accurate measurement. Today we only have 2 easy steps to follow. Step 1 is to measure the object in inches and in centimeters, and step 2 is to record your measurement. Now I'm going to model one problem for you. Directions say solve. Number 1 says, measure the pencils to the nearest whole unit using centimeters and inches. Record your measurements. I have 4 pencils to measure, and I'm measuring them all in centimeters and in inches. So I'm grabbing my ruler, and I'm just making sure that I am on that centimeter side because the centimeter column is first. So I'm going to start with that first pencil. And remember, I have that space, that gap from the edge of my ruler to the 0 mark. So I'm just going to slide my ruler a little bit so that it aligns with the pencil and my 0 mark. So looking at this, I can see that this first pencil is almost 4.5 centimeters. It's not quite reaching that halfway point, so I'm going to round down to the nearest whole unit, which is 4. If it had touched exactly that halfway point between 4 and 5, I would have rounded up to the nearest whole unit, which is 5. But I'm going to round down because it doesn't quite meet that halfway point. So this pencil is about 4 centimeters. Remember, this is just an estimate. It's not exactly 4 centimeters, as you just saw. It's a bit longer. Now I'm going to flip my ruler over, and I'm going to measure in inches this time. On this side, I have a teeny little gap, so I'm going to slide it over just a little bit again. And I can see that the halfway point between 1 and 2 is right here. And the pencil definitely goes past the halfway point, doesn't quite reach the 2, so it's not exactly 2 inches, but it's also not closer to 1. So I'm going to round up to 2 inches. And I don't have to write my unit today because they're already printed here in my book. Now I'm going to go ahead and measure my second pencil. And I'm flipping back over to the centimeter side of my ruler, lining up that 0 mark with the point of the pencil. It's just about 7 centimeters, not exactly, but I'm rounding up because it's past that halfway point between 6 and 7. So this second pencil is about 7 centimeters long. Flipping my ruler over to the inch side, lining up the 0 mark with the point of the pencil. I'm looking, I see that it's definitely between 2 and 3. It's past that halfway point, so I'm going to round up to the nearest whole unit, which in this case is 3. So the second pencil is about 3 inches. Flipping my ruler back over to the centimeter side, lining up my 0 mark with the tip of the pencil. And then I can see that this third pencil is almost exactly 9 centimeters long. So I write in the number 9 there as my measurement. I flip my ruler over to the inch side, and then I line up my 0 mark with the point of the pencil. Oh, I can see that this eraser is just about aligned with that halfway point. It's kind of a close call, but I'm going to say that it's touching it. I'm going to say it's touching it. And I'm going to round up. So remember, if your object just touches that halfway point between 2 numbers, in this case between 3 and 4, then you round up to the nearest whole unit. If it doesn't quite meet that halfway point, then you round down to the nearest whole unit. But like I said, it's a pretty close call, but I'm going to go ahead and say that it's about 4 inches long. It's not exactly 4 inches as you saw, but it's about 4 inches. Flipping over one more time to that centimeter side, lining up my 0 mark with the tip of the pencil, finding the other edge of the pencil. It doesn't quite meet that halfway point between 10 and 11, so I'm going to round down to the nearest whole unit, which in this case is 10. So this pencil is about 10 centimeters long. Flipping my ruler over one last time to the inch side, lining up the tip of the pencil with that 0 mark, finding the end of the pencil, and it lands just at about 4. So this pencil is about 4 inches long. In some questions, the objects might be positioned from top to bottom like you're seeing on the screen here. In that case, you have a couple of options if it's confusing for you to measure with objects positioned from top to bottom or vertically. So you can either take your book and flip it sideways, and then you can measure still from side to side, or you can just take your ruler and you can flip your ruler so that it is vertical. Whichever is easier for you, whichever makes more sense, should work. All right, now it's time for you to get started with your independent math practice. So as usual, you're going to head to Google Classroom, and then you have 2 options. You know what the 2 options are. Option 1 is to print off those worksheets and to do them by hand. Don't forget, if you choose this option, you also still have to do the math presentation. So follow that Seesaw link. If you choose option 2, that means that you're going to edit the template on Seesaw and then also do the math presentation on Seesaw. So follow those 2 links if you choose option 2. Good luck!